Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the fourth of our Voices in ELT Management sessions that we've been running this year. Thank you so much for giving your time this afternoon and joining us. My name is Del Spafford. I am the head of marketing for Macmillan Education. I'm based in Bangkok. Let us know in the chat, where are you from? What are you doing? And where you're working? What's the weather like? It's a pretty nice day here. One of those kind of days in Bangkok that it's so nice. I think it might actually start raining soon. It's kind of got that feel to it, that energy in the air. Hi, Amir. How are you doing today? Nice to see you. Are you going to be at VUST Seoul next week? Big conference next week in Vietnam for all our Vietnam guests. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Howdon, if that's correct. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, let's get started with today's session. Lots of people from the land of smiles. That's good. Okay, great. See you next week, Amir. So we're talking today about curriculum conversations, creating change. So as you can see from the title, we're going to be talking all about curriculum and also talking about our special guest, his journey to where he is today as manager in an institution. So joining us, let's get him in. So joining us is Joseph Serrani. Are you there, Joseph? Hello.
Hello, Del.
Good afternoon, Joseph. How are you today?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm feeling very positive today. Actually, having a good day. Got lots done already. And yeah, feeling good. So Joseph is the director of the Preparation Center for Languages and Mathematics at Mahidol University, abbreviated MUIC in Thailand. It's in a place called Salia. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah. So welcome, Joseph. Do you want to just start by maybe just introducing yourself? Tell us all about yourself and what you're up to at the moment.
Okay, sure. Well, for my background related to MUIC, I've been an instructor in the Preparation Center for almost 14 years.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
for about 5 years, I coordinated one of our EAP levels
Uh-huh.
and then transitioned into managing the entire program 7 years ago.
All right. So that's quite a long period of time to be in a management position there. So, and what's your day to day? What do you kind of what takes up most of your time managing a
Well,
center like that? How many teachers have you got and or instructors? I'm not sure what label you have for them.
yeah, well, technically they're called instructors, but obviously we just call each other teachers most of the time. Um, but we do have some of the lecturers from the university also work with us sometimes.
I see.
At the moment, full time, there are about a dozen instructors, and then we've got about a half a dozen part time, and then we also recruit in some of the lecturers from the university proper from time to time. So it's
Okay.
about 20 instructors or teachers overall.
And how do you go? I'm just interested. How do you go about managing all of those? Do you have senior teachers who manage teachers? Because surely you can't line manage 20 members of staff, right?
Definitely not. So within the program, there's the director position, there's an assistant director, and then there are coordinators for each of the four proficiency levels.
Ah, that makes sense.
There's a
Okay.
management team in place as
Okay, okay. And you oversee all of that.
that's right.
Cool. All right. And give me a little bit of more detail. So in terms of like overseeing everything, are you responsible for, let's think about are you professional development, setting up observations, schedules, curriculum, liaising with parents and sales and marketing and all this kind of thing? Tell me a little bit more if you can.
Uh, Almost everything you listed, except for sales and marketing, the university itself has a PR team and a corporate communication team, and they run all of that, which is very nice. So we don't have to deal with that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, everything else, curriculum, assessment, all the day-to-day management, dealing with any student issues, parents, all of that. Yes, the director of the program has to manage all of
Cool.
that.
That's great. And I'm sure you, I mean, it's not a silly question, but do you enjoy your work? Are you happy in your role?
Yeah, most of the time. There
Yeah.
could be some challenging moments, of course, but most of the time, I definitely enjoy it. I still teach on a regular basis,
Oh,
so
that's good.
that's a feature of higher education in Thailand in general, but definitely at Mahidol University and MUIC. So middle management, upper management, still normally teach at least one class every
Okay.
term.
And then in terms of research, do you do any writing any papers, doing any research into in the field, and what kind of research are you doing?
Yeah, I've actually been rather productive over the past few years. I did sort of a lot of conference presentations and conference proceedings in my early career, and lately I've been moving into academic journals. I've had a couple of papers out this year and plan for a few more in the next year.
What what,
Um,
what are you looking at? What's your interests?
Well, one, pretty varied, but all pretty much centered on the program itself, but from various angles. So one was a data analysis of 10 years of demographic data of our student population to see if we can spot any trends related to their success in the program, whether it be the high school they came from, the GPA in high school, and then whatever kind of achievement they had within the program. Just looking for trends so we could help identify students that would need more support primarily.
Wow. And that's over 10 years of data, yeah?
10 years of data. I had help from our math coordinator and teacher who has a PhD in computer science. So
Wow.
he did the data stuff. I did more of the administrative and the writing part.
Well, that's fascinating. I'll look forward to reading that when it comes out.
The other thing I just want to mention quick, because this might come up later, is looking at different dimensions of student engagement and
Uh-huh.
getting into that theoretical area as well. A recent hire of ours has specialized in that, and that's something I've been trying to sink my teeth into to help us better engage our students.
Right. Okay. Yeah, particularly that engagement question always comes up. You know, when we ask teachers for feedback after we've done sessions, a lot of that comes up, and that was particularly relevant during COVID, of course. And then I think just as tech becomes greater and people are doing things differently, the way that we engage and the way that we can engage learners changes, doesn't it? It's a really interesting field which never seems to ever be solved or go away. It's always changing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Very
That's
dynamic
one
area.
of the features or the bugs of the issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. I'm really fascinated by that demographic though, that data. I mean, that's really you could pull so much really interesting information from that. You know, I was reading about university, I think it was the University of Michigan using data on success of students who'd done different exams, intake exams. So there were students who had taken IELTS, students who had taken TOEFL, students who'd done the Duolingo entry test, and they were seeing if there's any data where their GPA was higher after a year of who had taken this entrance exam. Fascinating results, and it went against what you would expect, I think. But I got what I would expect anyway. But yeah, I'll let
Oh,
people search for
That's
it.
interesting. I'd like to check that out because we have some of the same questions here, and we've not done a study of that.
Let me see if I'll try and see if I can find it. I'm struggling to think of the guy. It was on LinkedIn, but I'll find it for you and send it to you. Let me just
Great.
make a note. All right. So while I'm just making a note, I'm really interested in your journey. So we always ask people how they got to where they are now. So you've been in this position. You said for 7 years you taught previously. You were head of the EAP as well, and so take us back. So how did you get here, and where did you start from? If that's not too big of a question.
So before working for MUIC,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, what's your journey for? So maybe even from graduating university, what were your aspirations? What did you want to do, and did it work out? And I because it obviously it's worked out. You're very successful now. So was it a straight path? Did it veer off, or what happened?
it wasn't a straight path, that's for sure. but it wasn't, I don't know, it depends on how you view it. Um, I actually graduated with a bachelor's in anthropology, but
Right.
I'd always planned on being a teacher, and I wasn't sure exactly in what field. But near the end of finishing the bachelor's degree, there was a need for ESL teachers at the university in volunteer roles. So I volunteered and I got to shadow some properly trained teachers in ESL in that role. And that got me interested in teaching ESL. And then I guess with the anthropology background, that showed my interest in learning about cultures. So
Hmm.
I always planned on traveling. So it was teaching ESL internationally, kind of like married the desire to teach and my desire to travel and see and experience other cultures. So that's where it started. So I came to Thailand actually in a different role, but ended up in teaching and slowly worked my way up and achieved some of the professionalization, the CELTA, a master's degree,
Hmm.
and lots of training along the way. I worked in elementary schools at first, and then also lots of private, some corporate private stuff,
Yeah.
teaching adults, weekend stuff. Lots of different things along the way, um, and then eventually ended up into some IELTS teaching,
Yeah.
and that's what led me to MUIC.
Right.
Along the way, it seemed like if I stayed at any particular school for more than 2 years, I would usually land myself in some kind of coordinating or management role.
Interesting.
There was always a strong need, and no, these roles aren't always paid.
Yes.
Um, so a lot of people just refuse them because they're not paid. But for me, it was an opportunity to kind of sink my teeth deeper into what I was doing, but also it gave me a chance to like structure what we were doing in a way that I thought was most beneficial for students. So
Yeah.
I always viewed it as an opportunity, even if it was a few hour extra, few hours more of work. So I had a lot of mid-management roles along the way, even before I landed here at MUIC.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That these kind of like, yeah, I could director of studies, academic coordinator, these kind in some institutions, yeah, you're kind of expected. It's an opportunity for you, but yeah, not exactly a financial opportunity. But you do sometimes can make your life easier if you can influence what you're doing, and yeah, so that's an interesting way of looking at
Sure.
that.
And especially if you want to make the teaching meaningful.
Yeah.
I can't remember the author right now, but someone has written about death by worksheet as a
Right.
as a common teaching practice, and that was not for me. I did not want to be handing out worksheets and just having students sit there silently. I wanted to
Yeah.
be actively engaging students and have them engage with each other. So if I had a chance to influence the curriculum, that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Death by my one is death by PowerPoint. You know, being involved in training, it's kind of a similar kind of thing. You can have these
Exactly.
beautiful PowerPoint, even these beautiful worksheets that actually, when you think about the learning outcomes, it's just nothing there, right? It's yeah. Okay, cool. So that's an interesting story. Can I just ask where you're from the States originally, right?
Yes,
So
from
when where did you come from? This which part of the States?
born and raised in Indiana,
Okay.
a small agricultural state in the Midwest, and I went to Purdue University, which is
Okay.
in the Midwest as well.
Yeah, it's very famous. Yeah. Right. Okay. And has all your experience then been in? So did you come straight from the States to Thailand, and have you worked anywhere else?
I did come, I mean, I traveled in the region before I graduated from university, but I did come straight to Thailand. But I did travel around for work. I had some different positions along the way. I kind of skipped that in my brief bio. I worked in the human rights area for a long time and managed education programs for migrant workers and refugees in Thailand for a while. So I originally came over doing that kind of work.
Ah, that's very interesting. So
And so it kind of was a combination of human rights, labor rights, education, all wrapped up in one. And that led me to various countries. So I was in the Philippines for a little while, Sri Lanka, and then different parts of Thailand.
Right, right. And in Thailand, where were you working mainly? Is this in Bangkok, or were you working on the border region, or
Mainly in Bangkok, but a lot of time on the border and in Chiang Mai.
fantastic? Okay, okay. Wow. And do you apply any of that into the work that you're doing now?
More or less, because I always try to approach what I'm doing or the situation I find myself in from a sort of needs analysis, you know. So once you've done that, I mean, if you approach it from that perspective, or you're trying to assess what the needs are, what the resources are, and what you have to work with, then yeah, I mean, just that framework alone can be applied no matter where you are.
Yeah, yeah. I ask because I find it interesting. Maybe this is a study. I mean, I don't know, but um, I often meet a lot of people who have done work in other fields before they come into teaching EFL or ELT. And it's interesting to see like these people like I was reflecting on it yesterday. I met people from all different. Even our mutual friend Paul Murphy, who worked in journalism for a long time. Obviously, there's a lot of crossover there. But I've met soldiers, or previously were soldiers, who've now moved into teaching. Very being qualified. They haven't just jump ship and because they could speak English can teach. I mean, I don't
Right.
believe that, but have got qualified and done it. But I think having that background gives you or having a background outside of the industry gives you a unique perspective, and I think helps with certain areas, particularly when it comes to management. I think there's also an empathy, I think, for managers if you've worked in somewhere where you've had a manager outside of ELT. If that makes sense, I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but I think it's easier to empathize with a manager as a teacher if you've had a manager outside of English language teaching, because there's different pressures and pulls, and yeah, I just feel that that's easier.
Yeah, I agree. And I think really what it comes down to is perspective, right? So like kind of
Mm.
having a broader perspective through experience or empathy or both.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Let's get into today's discussion then. So today we're talking about curriculum. Um, you're in charge of curriculum at your place, right?
That's right.
Uh-huh. Um, so if we dive straight into talking about curriculum, what are the most important principles that you consider when you're designing a curriculum, or even maybe changing or looking to change your curriculum that you have?
Well, as far as the EAP, English for Academic Purposes program here, so we play the role as a pathway program to the university. Our students are high school graduates who don't yet have the English proficiency to join the university. They've got conditional acceptance upon achieving that proficiency.
Right.
But we are not just teaching English, we're also doing academic preparation as well. So it's kind of, they're almost equally important. So we're preparing them for doing the academics and all these skills that go along with that, as well as the academic language proficiency. So I mostly focus on relevancy. So is our curriculum relevant to both the academics and the academic skills that our students need to develop, and the language?
Right.
Um, so we don't use any textbooks in our EAP program. We develop all the resources internally. So we're constantly revising resources. We're constantly updating the content. The program is content-based instruction that's embedded in project-based learning. So it can be a bit of a struggle to keep up to date with things. We've just updated some of the content recently, but so making sure that things are relevant academically and as far as their EAP needs.
Yeah. So you mentioned then about the teaching them the language, of course, and also teaching the academic skills that they need. So the language, it doesn't change that much, right? I mean,
No.
that's going to be fairly constant. But so how do you maintain? How do you know? What academic skills that are required? How do you keep up to date with that?
Well, the preparation center at MUIC is also governed by an advisory council, which is the upper senior management at the university. So we have a direct dialogue with the people, with the professors who are managing the university and teaching the courses. As well as I regularly meet with the department chairs who are running the different divisions and majors. So
Right.
there's an ongoing dialogue, there's constant feedback. I know what kind of curriculum changes are happening at the university. And then,
Yeah.
of course, we know our students declared major while they're in our program. So there's constant dialogue there, and we're always
Yeah.
up to date there. And then, of course, we have to just keep our eyes and ears open to what's happening in pop culture and current events.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, for example, for a long time, the concern and around the world was overpopulation, right? Overpopulation leading to resource depletion and all these other issues, which are related to academics. Well, now we're seeing that the script is turning upside down and people are worried about underpopulation. In particular, in Thailand, they're being called the old man of Southeast Asia, where they're aging out before they've achieved the development that they really like. So that's an academic content area that we've had to update and change. And
Right.
that's just by paying attention what's happening, in the news as well as in academics.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting that yeah, the aging population. I mean, um we work in South Korea as well, and South Korea is very it's a real challenge for them. I mean, we're talking 50, 60 years, and there's a real problem.
Yeah.
um and who knows, I mean, maybe AI will solve that problem. I don't know, but so how much does AI, and the challenges or the changes that's brought about feed into curriculum change? Does it I mean, I'm sure it let me ask you that question.
Well, teachers are using it and experimenting with it as far as like materials development, assessment development, a little bit on feedback, although because of the hallucinations, it's problematic with actual feedback. But for using it as a tool to help develop materials and assessment that are then edited and fixed, it can be useful for teachers.
Yeah.
As far as our students, it's a matter of like academic skills, like how teaching our students how they can use these tools productively and
Yeah.
not shortchanging themselves as far as how much they're actually thinking critically and actually learning the material. And
Yeah.
that's a real challenge because that's an emerging issue across the world right now.
Yeah.
So we've just started dipping our toes in that. It is an active thing that we're exploring and looking into on all fronts. All teachers are now trying to teach some of the skills involved with using it as a tool to aid their language learning. Um, but it's pretty tricky because the interface itself doesn't always lend itself to learning as opposed to just giving you the answer you want.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Do you have a policy on student use in terms of, like, I'm sure there's lots of assignments that they have to produce. I mean, do you have a red light, green light, amber light kind of policy
Yeah,
for you?
exactly. So the university has adopted a five scale rubric to
Okay.
student-facing rubric, which tells them how they can and can't use it on each assignment.
Right.
So we've
Yeah.
done the same thing. For the most part, it only applies to the written work that they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so practice essays, and we do have, as I mentioned earlier, project-based learning approach in each of our levels. So the project work that is actually written, then it applies there where we say that it's useful for brainstorming and maybe outlining depending on the assignment, but all the actual text should be written by the student themselves.
Right. Right. So can I go back to your and sort of tap into your previous role that you were talking about, and your study, actually, anthropology, and think about culture. So MUIC it is international. I mean, I'm assuming what percentage of international students do you have? And what percentage are Thai? And do you have many, or is that something you have to be careful of when you're thinking about curriculum and cultural relevance?
Yes, at the university, it's a bigger issue because they have a larger international population, probably 15-20%. I'm not actually sure. The numbers
Okay,
fluctuate.
right.
Internally in our program, it's closer to 10% of our students are non-ties. Yeah, it can come up. So sometimes the non-tie students might voice some complaints about the curriculum being too oriented to the tie audience and not
Yeah.
them. But that's not entirely true, or that's not entirely the only issue because we also have Thai students who have come from international high schools.
Ah,
And so they've
interesting.
had a different experience than our Thai students have who have gone to Thai curriculum schools. So there can be a mismatch in the content and the relevancy of whatever we're covering in terms of that as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's just not just because they're from just because they're Thai doesn't necessarily mean they've had the same similar experience to somebody. And
Yeah.
it even depends. It could even depend. My daughter went to quite a progressive high school, which is very different to some of the well, very different to a lower high school that she went to in terms of their style of teaching and their attitude to learning. And that's yeah, just I just thought that would be quite because it being international, would that cause any not challenges, but any sort of differences? Um, so how do you let's think you've got 20 a group of 20 teachers there. How do you involve teachers in the design process for curriculum? Are they involved? Do you have regular sort of curriculum meetings? How do you go about making sure that you get buy-in from teachers? Because they're the ones that have to deliver the curriculum, right?
That's right. Um, I think first of all, we try to keep a sort of horizontal, sort of collegiate atmosphere and culture as far as exchanging ideas. There is a management structure, but day-to-day relations are pretty horizontal. People are free to give their opinions. But more importantly, yeah, we have regular curriculum meetings. A significant one at the beginning and end of each term, and then regular sort of off-campus workshops where we really get into the details. And then throughout each term, coordinators and myself will have coordinator meetings and then other meetings with teachers. And then we have open feedback forums for all teachers to chime in about any issues they're having or ideas they may have. So basically, it's just constant communication and exchange of ideas.
That
Um,
sounds very positive. Yeah, that's good.
Not everyone gets what they want because at the end of the day, we have to decide on something. Um,
Yeah.
but we do change our themes and the content. And I did want to mention that because of the project-based learning framework that we use, each of the themes of those projects is itself based on a framework which is then flexible and students can choose. So, for example, um, in our second level, our sort of B1 level classes, their project is based on ASEAN, where
Right.
each student in the class chooses a not Thailand or not the country where they're from, but any other country in ASEAN, and then they investigate the country, and then they decide in collaboration with one of their teacher advisors what subject to then explore further. So they get to choose something that they are interested in. So what I'm trying to say here is there's a framework, but then it's flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And then that keeps it relevant and that also keeps it interesting for everyone involved. And
Yeah.
that's
And
and that's kind of a pattern that we have throughout the four levels that we have here.
that's great because that's also that makes the student accountable for their own decisions, their own choices, right? And therefore they're responsible for delivering on that. They can't blame it on the teacher for giving them something irrelevant to study and
Yeah.
research. Yeah.
And hopefully they feel more ownership and then, they're more motivated to engage.
Yeah, it goes back to that student engagement that you were talking about. Yeah, that'd be interesting in that study to see if giving students ownership actually, increases student engagement or makes them sometimes I guess it could make them more I don't know, a bit more stressed about having too much choice, for example. It can be quite difficult. Students need constraints, don't they? Or everyone needs constraints.
They do. And what's a very challenging part of this approach that we use is that it kind of inherently it differentiates instruction because a student might not want to be challenged much by the project and might kind of set the bar low about what they want to investigate. And then the teacher might have to kind of push them to investigate deeper or challenge themselves more, or vice versa. So
Yeah,
when we do these projects, each teacher is assigned a student in the class as their individual advisor and meets with them individually. And then, but the teacher itself themselves have to be well versed in everything about the project, the academic side, as well as the language side, and then
yeah,
has to really get to know the student to know what help that they need, if any at
yeah,
all.
yeah. That's a full-on role. That's what teachers do, though, isn't it? I guess that's their job. Yeah.
Exactly.
That whole constraints thing, there's a really in simple analogy. If I asked you now to say, right, write me a poem, it would take you. It's very difficult. I'm giving you so much freedom to do something. You're thinking just right. You can do what you want. It's up to you. Write me a poem. It's so difficult to do that. But if I said, write me a poem, it's got to have a boy in it. It's got to have a girl in it. They have to go somewhere. They have to do something. And at the end, there must be an apple in the poem. Then having these constraints makes it so much easier, but still produces creativity and language. So that was just something that came into my head when you're thinking about this student engagement. I guess we're digressing a little bit, so I'll bring it back. And I just want to say to everybody in the chat, we're going to have some time for some questions. So if you have any questions for Joseph, pop them in the chat, and we can answer them, in a moment after we've finished some of our questions. So we've talked a lot about designing curriculum. Is there ever been a time where there's been a challenge when you've implemented a new curriculum, or it could be a challenge came from the students or from the teachers, and how have you overcome this kind of challenge?
Um, there's so many challenges. Well, I guess the most recent case I can think of is the one of the term projects that we had, or themes in our B2 level, was the theme was civilizational collapse. This is
Wow.
actually
Okay.
this is actually based on the work of an anthropologist, actually an ornithologist by trade, I think. Jared Diamond. He wrote a couple of famous books a couple of decades ago. Um, one of which is titled Collapse, where he kind of does a worldwide survey of famous ancient civilizations and tries to uncover and explain why they collapsed.
Ah.
So this was a term project where we would use that content and the framework that and analysis that he used to analyze these famous, like, the Egyptian civilization and many others. And then the students would then take that framework and then choose a modern country and then apply it and see what the likelihood. Well, what happens was, well, it's interesting culturally and historically, and you can get into environmental issues, political, social, all kinds of things that students can learn through this. But it's just the whole framework is kind of dark
Yeah.
and it's not very hopeful. Um, so
I'm feeling
I
anxious already.
Yeah, exactly. So I inherited that, and slowly but surely I was, listening to students complain about it being a little bit too challenging and not very interesting and kind of depressing, as well as the teachers teaching it who had been teaching it for a while and maybe initially were interested. They were kind of realizing that it wasn't very hopeful. So we ditched that. Um, but it's a lot of work to come up with a new project.
Yes. Yeah.
As you were mentioning earlier, it's all the scaffolding materials that you need that are there for students who need the scaffolded materials, like how to approach research online, how to evaluate sources, having a short list of go-to expert sources, all the reading material that we curate and write or edit ourselves. So it's a big project to start a new project. So there was some reluctance, but like we had to do it because it just wasn't
Yeah.
working for our students.
Yeah. I can see that.
So we
Yeah,
eventually shelved that and came up with something new that was more hopeful.
I'll check that out. Jared Diamond, you say, yeah?
Yeah.
It sounds interesting. Yeah, but I'll have a look at that. Yeah, in my free time. Well, I promise I won't pass it on to any learners though, for sure. Um, I guess we're coming to it. Like I said in the chat, if you've got any questions, but when you think about the next, let's say the next 5 years in Asia, in Thailand, apart from what we talked about earlier, the implementation of AI and that, being, happening so quickly, what other innovations or shifts do you see in maybe in ELT? It could talk about curriculum, but maybe in just the whole field of language teaching and teaching academic skills as well. Is there anything that you see on the horizon?
Other than AI?
Yeah,
Well, AI is the big one, right?
yeah.
That's going to have the biggest impact for sure.
I mean, talk. You can talk maybe a bit further about AI if you want to. It's at the front of everybody's mind, I know. But
It
if
is.
there's anything
It's
else,
yeah, it's about how to harness it as a learning aid and not as a crutch um, that students over rely on and it doesn't actually support learning. There was an interesting study by MIT that just came out about that, where it compared the is it EKG? Anyways, the brain waves, the brain activity on students using AI to help them write and students who don't. And you can guess what the results were.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Those not using AI to support their writing had much more brain activity going on, which is a proxy for learning and
yeah.
and memory. But to not get, I don't, we don't need to get into that. I guess another issue that's been around for a while, but may come more to the forefront is this idea of deglobalization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, some of the economic policies coming out of the United States right now are not supportive of an increasingly interconnected world. These tariffs are changing everything, visa policies, things like this. So there could be a bit of a trend towards deglobalization, which then, as far as language teaching, might have an impact on this idea of global Englishes,
Yeah,
um, which has been around for a while and is not going away. So that tension between global Englishes and the sort of the established forms of English, and then which one is better for higher education or which context. I think that issue is likely to stick around and might become more salient in the next 5 years.
yeah. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Now we've got a couple of questions. Amir has had added a question. Says, to what extent does a preferred teaching approach, for example, PBL, influence or should influence the curriculum development?
To what extent, again, I think it would come back to the needs analysis. So the PBL just fits our pathway program very well. We want to train students to enter MUIC and be successful, not just in terms of their language preparation, but in terms of their ability to engage in a liberal arts education. It is a liberal arts based university. So they need to have open, critical minds. They need to have the skills and resources to be able to engage. So it fits the needs of our situation. So I think, again, needs analysis.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And Joy Lynn has said that thanks for sharing your ideas. I'd like to know, how often does your program update the curriculum? What if some teachers don't agree with the new design? Well, you kind of touched on that. How much freedom do teachers have under the design, or how do coordinators encourage collaboration? So I guess that sort of leads to the question we looked at earlier, but maybe answer the first part then about how often do you update the curriculum?
Uh, it, the program used to have a once in a decade kind of major update, but we've switched to a model of just constant updating.
Right.
So, like I mentioned the theme that we just recently changed, but we've changed two other themes and two other levels in that same time period. We ditch entire themes, even in the middle of the term. It's quite flexible as far as the curriculum because the needs aren't really changing, and the ultimate goals and their underlying skills. Um, so we change the content, we change the focus quite often. We do alter the assessments from time to time.
Yeah.
And again, these just happen when there's enough evidence that things need to change, then we make the changes.
Right. Right.
The advisory board gives us that flexibility. And I think this approach is better than just sticking with something for a certain period of time. Um,
100%. Yeah.
I think the trick is, as far as the question, how do we get all teachers on board when there's resistance? Well, it's appeal to logic first. There should be a logical reason why with an explanation, but also having the evidence. So when coordinators or teachers come to me and they talk about an assessment or something they like to change, I'm like, well, let's get some evidence. Let's get some data. We can get student perception surveys going, which we do regularly, but on specific issues. We can look at assessment data and compare it over time by class, by teacher. So we do try to have a data-driven decision making here.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with evidence, right? It's just it's there in black and white. So thank you, Joy and Amir, for those questions. So I've just got a couple of questions that we always finish with. This is called our lightning round, our three big questions. Um, so number one, what's the best advice you've ever received as an ELT manager?
I thought about this one for a while in preparation, and it's hard to pick one, but I guess I would say engagement, which we've talked about. But in this case, I meant specifically with the instructors that I do manage. So my mentor, the person who held this role before me, he was excellent at this, and he stressed the utility of engaging with the teachers, which means just making sure that you're visiting them, talking to them and informally, but also in formal situations, one-on-one meetings, small group meetings, find out what they're interested in the classroom, what struggles they're having, try to help them out as much as you can, maybe even do a joint action research project, but basically constantly staying engaged with your teachers and
Mhm.
not just, being aloof and
Yeah.
managing from afar. So I think that pays off in a lot of different ways. So staying engaged with those that you're supervising.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, open door policy kind of thing. Yeah, and yeah, making sure that yeah, that's good advice. Question two: what's a book or a podcast or a resource that's inspired you recently?
Um, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I read a lot, but one guy I've been into recently, one author I've been into recently, he does have a podcast, but I would recommend his books. And this is the linguist John McWhorter.
Yep, heard of him.
Uh,
Yeah.
he's a linguist from Columbia University in the US. He also has, I think he has an ongoing article with the New York Times. Um, he's got a book called Power of Babel, not Tower of Babel,
Right.
a play on that. And he's basically looking at how languages evolve and change over time. And he kind of uses a Darwinian evolutionary framework to look at languages and how they change, which I think is important for teachers. Again, I mentioned global Englishes earlier. I mean, languages are changing all the time. These forms that we think students have to master because they're the accepted forms from somewhere. I mean, even those forms themselves can change a little bit over time. Now that things are written down, things change less. But it's just it's important, an important reminder that languages do change and shift
Yeah.
over time. And I think descriptive grammar is much more useful than prescriptive. But I know there can be some tension there between people who like one or the other. But yeah, that's a really interesting book to look at how languages change over time.
Right. I think I've just put if I've got the right one, I've just found it on Wikipedia if people are interested and put it into the chat. Yeah, I think that's the right one. So I'll have a look at that. Okay, cool. And then the last question: if you had to describe great leadership in one word, what would it be?
Um, Perspective. If I have to choose one word, you can managers, anyone, but especially managers can be blinded by not considering other perspectives. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with all the perspectives, but you should be aware of all the perspectives going on, the perspectives that your teachers might have, your students. your advisory or managing board might have, the parents of the students, if they're relevant in your context. So basically taking a kind of stakeholder view of your situation and trying to balance all these and consider all these different perspectives that are going on all the time and that change from time to time. So I think you need to have a perspective. Also, that means short term and long term. It might be, you might have to make some difficult decisions that are really challenging at the moment, but they're the right decision for the long term. It can be easy to make decisions that are easy for the short term. They can dissolve and resolve a situation at the immediate, but then cause problems later. So balancing all these different perspectives, I think, is key to
Yeah,
leading.
great. Thank you so much. That's a great answer. So I'll just finish by yeah, if you've got anything else that you'd like to, anything that you feel you'd like to add that you hadn't had a chance to mention, then please feel free. Tell us about MUIC and what makes it a great place, or you know, anything
Oh,
you like. You've got the floor is yours.
oh, well, I definitely like to plug my university. It's up here, one of the premier universities in Thailand. And like I mentioned, they are liberal arts based. So that means they encourage critical thinking, exploring the world, widening your perspective. As I mentioned, all students are required to take some general education courses, no matter their major. So if they major in science or business, they still have to take some history courses, culture, and some other things. So I think it's a great way to approach higher education in general. And then, of course, my program, the Pathway program, uh, like I mentioned, it's not just the English. We're not preparing students to take the TOEFL. They're learning English and they're learning all the academic skills and discipline that's necessary to succeed. So that's what I'd like to plug.
Fantastic. It sounds like a great place. And I know it's a good place to work because, as I said, we have a very a mutual friend who's been there for many years as well, and yeah, he wouldn't be there. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, what? How long do people stay? It seems that
A
very,
long time, a
yeah.
long time. The
there-
teachers stay for a long time.
There's not many jobs that come up there, right?
No, it's rare. That
Yeah,
turnover is very low. So yeah, it is a great place to work as well.
yeah. Good for you, and well done on making it a great place to work, Joseph.
We
So
try.
thank you so much for your time today. It's been a really great conversation. It's got 45 minutes has gone in, it goes so quickly, and that's a good sign that the conversation was good. I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you giving your time up today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, Dell. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. So take care, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you found the conversation interesting, and we'll see you again in a couple of months for our episode 5. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.